There are a lot of things that we tell ourselves when we want to feel better about our situation. Time heals all wounds. Every cloud has a silver lining. Birthday cake doesn't have calories. Sometimes we just need a little hope to get through the moment that we're facing. But I have very good news for you. We don't have to rely on wishful thinking to get us through the hard parts. We're going to talk about it today on the podcast. Hi, I'm Allie, and I'm living chronic faith. Thanks for stopping by, and welcome to the podcast. The name says it all. I believe that our faith has to be as chronic as our symptoms, and this podcast is a safe space for us to explore meaningful ways to live our lives according to that faith. It's my prayer that after this episode, you will be more encouraged, more educated, and more equipped to live out your chronic faith. Welcome to the Living Chronic Faith podcast. I'm Allie, and I was reflecting recently on how different my life looks today from how it looked 6 months ago, in a number of ways. And of course, that caused me to go back down memory lane, and I realized that this year, I'm celebrating 15 years of God's faithfulness through chronic diagnosis. That might sound a little weird to you, and I want to clarify, I'm not celebrating having chronic diagnoses. That has not been fun. But I am celebrating the fact that God has taken care of me through every step of this journey. I'm celebrating the fact that I still have joy. And I'm celebrating the fact that I'm not where I was when I started. Then that got me thinking. I remember when I was first officially diagnosed with lupus in 2010. It was such a long process of describing symptoms that didn't make sense to my doctor, being treated as if I were making things up or that my discomfort was somehow my fault. And I remembered being placed on medications that suppressed my immune system so much that I spent weeks at a time in hospitals with mysterious infections that led to everything from pneumonia to kidney failure. I remembered how afraid I was and how alone I felt, even in a room full of people who loved me, wondering what kind of future I would have, or if I would even have one at all. Fast forward 15 years, and today all I can say is God is faithful. There have been challenges, some major ones. But what stands out to me most as I look back is that in those hard moments, all I could see was the page I was on currently. But in hindsight, I realized God always had another chapter that was about to begin. And I'm so grateful that I didn't give up mid-chapter. Even though I had no clue what would happen when the page turned, God always knew. And whether it was something better or not, He was already there waiting for me with a plan. He had already walked out the steps and laid out a strategy for me to be able to get through the hardest of things. Not always a strategy I enjoyed or a plan that made sense to me, but an effective plan. In these last 15 years, I've experienced my share of mountaintops and valleys, and every single one was different from the last. But what was the same is that God was with me, sustaining me, keeping me in the best and worst of times. I could tell you about times when I felt like I didn't have enough of anything: strength, support, money, faith. And those times taught me what God can do with my not enough. It wasn't the experience I wanted, but I made it through, and it was only because God did what He always does, just like He did with the fish and the loaves. He took what was not enough and blessed it and multiplied it. I also learned, however, that even in the mountaintop moments, when things were going so well, that was only because of Him too. I can't make any good thing happen in my life. I can partner with God and do what is assigned to me, but I can't make good happen. Every good and perfect gift comes from above, from the Father of lights, James says. So when I think back to the days where I was lying in a hospital bed, paralyzed, wondering if I would ever walk, drive, or feed myself again, I'm reminded of how God was and is still writing my story. And if I can just keep trusting him, there's always another chapter coming. Psalm 139, verse 16, the B clause says, all the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. I can't tell you what a relief that is for me. That I don't have to figure it all out, that I don't have to know what's coming next or figure out how to work my way out of a situation. That he's already seen what's coming up. Not only did he see it, but he ordained it. God has decided. And I love to say it this way, he has already spoken to my outcome. Yeah, my future has its marching orders and it will be what he said. And I'm so thankful that I get to partner with him and do the things that he lays out for me to do without being responsible for making it all come together. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. That just because we can't always anticipate the plot twists that are coming up in our stories, we can still afford to rest in the fact that the author of our stories loves us and already knows how we're going to get to our happily ever after. What we can't afford is to get too comfortable in any one chapter. We need to stay close to the author in the good times and in the difficult ones. Because not only is he weaving together a beautiful story, he's also doing some character development. This is the collection of experiences that we need to go through to become the person we were meant to be. You might be asking, with all the responsibilities that we have, how can we just trust God to write our stories? How can we let go? Psalm 46 reminds us to be still and know that he is God. And in my mind, I have to be still long enough to focus on the fact that he is in control and he doesn't fail. Does that mean just do nothing? No. But it does mean that I can do the part that is mine to do and trust God with the rest. One more thing. God is like that person who confidently starts a crossword puzzle in ink. He has no need for an eraser. The plan that God made for your life before the world began was good from the beginning. And when we get off track, he knows exactly how to reroute us so we can arrive at the correct destination. And he has already accounted for any delays our choices will cause. And yes, we are sometimes impacted by the free will of other people. But nothing they can do is bigger than God's ability to edit everything around you to get you to the conclusion he ordained for your story. It may also help you to remember that yours is not just an isolated storyline. You are part of a much bigger story. It's the continuing story of God and his ever-expanding family. And if you wonder how it will turn out, just remember, his first book has sold over 5 billion copies and counting. Whatever page you find yourself on, never forget that your story is actively being written by the hand of Almighty God, who loves you with an everlasting love. So no matter what, continue to trust him for the next chapter. Thank you so much for joining us for the podcast. I hope we see you next time. I love you. I'm praying for you, and I'll talk to you soon. Have a great one. Hey, thanks so much for listening. If you want to stay up to date on what's happening in the LCF community, Or for more faith-first chronic diagnosis content, please visit our website at livingchronicfaith.com. And while you're there, consider registering for membership free of charge. Also, check us out on Instagram and YouTube at Living Chronic Faith. Be sure to follow and subscribe. Remember that I'm praying for you. Yes, you. And until next time, always expect great things. Talk to you soon.